Hello, and welcome to this presentation about our aggregations for Microsoft software licenses. My name is Jo Molyneux, and I work in the aggregation team here at Crown Commercial Service. So I'm going to be taking you through today just some background about aggregations in general, and then some information about Microsoft software contracts and pricing structure, and then I'll go through the process that we follow for our aggregations. So first, just a quick bit of background about Crown Commercial Service aggregations in general. So our aggregations, essentially, they seek to save public sector time and money. So we bring together multiple public sector buyers with similar requirements. So that can be public sector buyers from any part of the public sector. So you could potentially have a central government body on the same aggregation as a charity and an NHS trust or a fire service, for example. The key being that they have similar requirements, such as Microsoft software, and we bring them together under one procurement process with the aim of using the volume of the requirements and the volume of customers to make savings. So the volume of customers and requirements encourages the bidding suppliers to bid more competitively for the chance of winning all of those customers via one procurement process. So the potential being that if all those customers did their own procurement processes, it would cost suppliers more money to bid because they'd have to bid separately each time using different processes and different tender packs, for example, from each of those individual customers. But if we bring it all together in one, it helps streamline the process. It puts all of that volume on offer under one process for suppliers, and so it helps them save their costs in terms of bidding and also encourages them to make good offers because they have the chance of winning all of those customers in one go. Crown Commercial Service is a public sector body ourselves, and so we provide the service of aggregations to the rest of public sector who are our customers free of charge. So we will run these aggregations for you entirely free of charge. The aggregations can be across the UK, so UK-wide, where we get multiple bodies from all different sectors join. But we can also run aggregations for distinct areas of the public sector. For example, if local councils across UK or in one particular area all need something, we can run aggregations for that. And as well as the regular aggregations, which are advertised on the CCS website, we can also take on new aggregations. So if you have a requirement that you're aware that other bodies will need as well, or you're already talking to those other bodies as well about the potential of running the tender together, please come and talk to us and we can look into whether we can perhaps run that for you or perhaps just help input into what you're trying to do to help you move along to running the process yourself. So I thought it was worth going through some background on the structure of your Microsoft license agreements before we launch into a bit more detail about the pricing and how that's made up. So your Microsoft license agreements will have yourselves as the buying organisation. That's represented by the circle at the top of this slide. You'll have a procurement contract with your licensing solution partner, which is Microsoft LSP or the reseller of the Microsoft software. And that procurement contract will cover all the good stuff, such as true up and true down, optimization of your estate, the value for money recommendations they can make, and you'll have an account manager and a support team under that contract as well, and also cover the billing for your Microsoft licenses. And as well as your procurement contract, you'll have a second set of paperwork which sits with that procurement contract, and that's your enrolment paperwork with Microsoft, which cover your licensing terms. So that covers the actual use of the licenses, any commitments you might have had to make to Microsoft regarding numbers of licenses on your estate, where applicable. So some SCE ski licenses might have those kind of commitments, for example. And it will also cover access to the Microsoft portal to help you manage your licenses. Now, the procurement contract with the reseller, the Microsoft LSP, has to be in place first, and they will then help organise your enrolment paperwork with Microsoft. So when you go to tender for your Microsoft licenses, you are going to tender for that procurement contract with your Microsoft LSP. So underpinning those contracts is a commercial agreement that your Microsoft LSP has with Microsoft to enable them to sell Microsoft licenses. So here I've just set out the structure of Microsoft license prices, which helps you understand how the overall price to you is put together. So there are three elements to any license price. The first being the Microsoft list price. And Microsoft dictate that list price to their LSPs, and that means that you will get the same price for your ESA and ski licenses in particular from any LSP, however you buy those licenses. So whatever route to market you choose, whether you join an aggregation or whether you run the tender yourself, that Microsoft list price is set by Microsoft. So it's the same. LSPs have no control over that part of the price. Because it's controlled by Microsoft, this price is locked in from the point of signing your Microsoft enrolment papers. So remembering from the previous slide that your procurement contract with the LSP needs to be in place first, and that LSP will then help you organise your enrolment papers with Microsoft. It's only at the point of signing your enrolment papers with Microsoft that this list price can be locked in, and so that is relevant to your month of enrolment. So before that price is locked in, there is potential for the list price to change by pennies here or there, and that's because Microsoft release a monthly list price to the LSPs, remembering that LSPs can do nothing about that. It's a Microsoft set price, but it is usually just pennies here or there, and those pennies can go down as well as up. If Microsoft are planning any big changes, they do announce those well in advance of making those big changes, usually 12 months or more in advance. And they'll announce that via news releases on the website, or they'll let bodies such as Crown Commercial Service know so that we can engage with all of the customers we are talking to let you know if any big price changes are expected for your renewal dates that you need to be aware of. So taken away from that list price is a discount that you'll be eligible for as a UK public body. Those discounts are governed by MOU deals that we have with Microsoft. So those MOU deals are put in place by bodies such as Crown Commercial Service on behalf of all of public sector. And then there are different parts of public sector that might be eligible for a slightly different structure of discounts. Schools, for example, might be eligible for discounts under a GISC agreement, and NHS bodies might be eligible for discounts negotiated by NHS England or the Collaborative Licensing Deal, NHSE 23 for short. If you're at all unsure of the discounts that you're eligible for, please get in touch with Crown Commercial Service and we can help you find those discounts that you're eligible for. The important part to note about the discounts is that because they're set by overarching MOU agreements, you will get the same discount that you're eligible for, the highest discount that you're eligible for, from all LSPs and whatever route to market you take. So again, whether you join the aggregation or whether you run your own tender, you will get the same discount. The discounts are also locked in from the point of signing your Microsoft enrolment papers. But discounts are relatively static because when the MOUs are signed, they tend to be signed for a number of years, so the discounts remain relatively static because of the lengths of those MOUs. So once those first two elements are in place, you then have the LSP reseller margin that they place on top, and that's to provide the value for money recommendations your billing and license optimization service. They place a margin on top of that in order to provide that service. And because that's the element that LSPs have control over, it's the margins when it comes to competing price for Microsoft, it's the margins that can be competed. So margins will vary between LSPs and per product, and the aggregation fixes the margin that you will get for each license. So that's fixed from the point of tender from the winning bidder under the aggregations. And another note to make about the aggregation process is that we also fix a maximum margin for any products you might add to your contract over the life of the contract. So just to clarify, you can add updated quantities to your existing licenses, but if you add any new licenses to your contract that weren't represented at the point of tender as you go through your contract life, the maximum margin will protect you against any unexpected large margins from your LSP. So all three of those elements make up the price to you. That's the total that you will pay for a license. Typically, when going to tender by yourselves, you will see that cost all rolled up into one, but aggregations require broken down pricing. So if you join an aggregation, when you see your results, you will see these three elements broken down, so you can see the margin that the winning bidder is applying, and that is fixed in by the aggregation. So I'm just going to run through now the process that we follow for these aggregations for Microsoft software. So on this slide here, we have the buyers represented by the three circles on the left. We've got buyer A, buyer B, and buyer C, who are individual buyers coming from any part of the UK public sector. So one of them could be a fire service, for example, an NHS trust and a local authority. Just as example, they send their draft requirements into us, and we just need the list of licenses that are required along with the part codes for those licenses and the types of license that they are, and importantly the renewal date. So once we have those lists of licenses in from potential participants in the aggregation, we'll then undertake the activities that are set out by the bullet points in the middle of this slide. So we'll begin with some pre-tender support, and that will take the form of reviewing the lists of licenses that have come into us. So we'll be looking for where we can spot if there are retired licenses, for example, and if we can recommend alternatives. And we'll also provide you with some benchmark pricing. So the benchmark pricing we can provide could help you obviously towards your budgetary approvals at this point in time. We can provide benchmark pricing for ESA and ski licenses, which are usually held under an enterprise agreement with Microsoft. So there are some types of licenses such as NCE licenses, for example, that we don't have the pricing for, but they tend to form a smaller part of a public sector body's estate. But if in doubt, if you've got a wide variety of licenses on your estate, please get in touch with us and we'll see what form of help we can provide you at this point. So we'll be preparing the tender pack at this time as well, and we'll include your draft list of licenses in there. You can obviously change these licenses before we go to tender if you need to. Just to say that sending your licenses in to us for this pre-tender support does not obligate you to join the aggregation. You can drop out at any point ahead of tender. Once we've prepared a draft tender pack, we'll then send that to yourselves as potential participants so you can review that tender pack, and that will include the statement of requirements that we set out, which will include the account management plan that will fall under the contract, for example, and the social value scheme. It will include the set of tender questions that we'll be sending out to bidders, so you can review those as well. But once everybody's happy and confirmed they wish to join the aggregation, we'll then issue the tender on your behalf, and we issue the tender as a further competition call-off tender under our RM 6098 framework agreement, which is Technology Products and Associated Services 2. Specifically, Lot 3 under that agreement is the one we use to run these aggregations as further competition call-offs, because that Lot 3 gives us access to quite a large number of Microsoft LSPs. Then once we're in the tender process, we manage this entirely on your behalf. We manage all the clarification questions from bidders. Now and again, if there's a particularly difficult question that comes out about a specific requirement, we might need to come back out to that particular customer to clarify, but usually we can manage these entirely on customers' behalves. And we also manage the evaluation on your behalf. So evaluation under the aggregations are majority pass-fail, a set of mandatory questions that you will have seen with the draft tender pack that we send to you. And that's based around provision of the statement of requirements and also agreement to the terms and conditions. And we then have a social value question which is evaluated, and that's worth 10% of the weighting. And then once bidders have passed those stages, we will evaluate their pricing. When we know who the winning bidder is from that tender process, we'll then communicate the results to yourselves as the participating buyers and also to the bidding community. And when we send the results to you, you will see the results specific to your requirements that you entered into the aggregation. And we'll also have drafted your contract for you, which will include the winning bidder tender response. We'll send that to you as well, along with a list of next steps to take if you wish to move forward to contract. So we'll also offer to arrange an introductory meeting with the winning bidder as well, so that you can talk to them and perhaps better understand some aspects about the service if you wish to, if they're not well known to you. All of that will help form your due diligence when you're checking through your results, to have those initial conversations with the winning bidder to check whether you're happy with the results overall. If for whatever reason results do not provide you with value for money, you are not obligated to move forward to contract. But if you do wish to move forward to contract, we'll do our best to help you enter into that contract. So hopefully by this stage, we'll have sent you enough information to complete any internal approvals you need to go through. But if you find anything at all is missing, please just come back to us and we'll provide the information. Because these aggregations are call-off further competitions under one of our framework agreements, we have the CCS team here that manage that framework agreement that can provide support throughout the 3-year life of the contract as well. So these contracts are 3 years, and that's to match a standard Microsoft Enterprise agreement, which are always 3 years. And the team at CCS will always be on hand if you find any issues as you move through that life of the contract. So here I've just set out some of the benefits of joining one of our aggregations. We've got savings first. We hope to make savings obviously by offering that volume to the marketplace. The average savings you might hope to make could be between 2 to 3.5%, and that's the average across all aggregations and all customers that have joined so far. When we're talking about savings, we measure against current market pricing. We don't measure against the previous prices a customer might have agreed 3 years previously for their current enterprise agreement with Microsoft, for example. So these are savings you may have made compared to going to market at this point in time as a single entity. We also hope to make savings on your time and resource, freeing your time up to perhaps do more important things for your organisation while we undertake this procurement process for you. We provide a compliant route to market because it's a call-off further competition under our framework agreement, our RM6098 Technology Products and Associated Services Framework Agreement. Is a compliant route to market following all the guidance on the call-off procedures and using the call-off templates under that framework agreement. There's the specialist support that we provide at the pre-tender, the tender and the post-tender stage. So the pre-tender, remember, we'll provide a review of your license list and we'll provide you with benchmark pricing, and then we carry out the procurement for you. And then we'll provide some post-contract support should you find you need it as you move through the life of your contract. And then finally, there's no commitment under these aggregations. There's no commitment either to the license list and the quantities that we publish on your behalf. The tender documentation will allow for you to change those if you need to ahead of your enrolment with Microsoft. But there's also no commitment to signing on the dotted line with the winning provider if the tender process does not provide you with value for money. So I've just set out the schedule of these Microsoft software aggregations here on this slide. We run 3 of these events each year, spring, summer and autumn/winter. Which event you might join will depend on when your Microsoft renewal is due. So the spring event would suit you if your renewal was due between end December and 1st of April, or the summer event would suit you if your renewal was due between end April and 1st of August, and the autumn and winter event would suit you if your renewal was due between end August and 1st of December. So if you have any questions about the schedule, obviously get in touch and we can clarify anything for you. But the main point on this particular slide is the one that sits just underneath the table, which is advice to please engage with CCS as early as you can, because that gives you the advantage of talking over with us any questions you might have on the process, so we can perhaps put it into context of what joining this process might look like for you, and also gives us time to review your licenses on your estate. So if there is any questions over any licenses, we can talk that all through with you in plenty of time ahead of tender if you need to make any internal decisions about which licenses to run with and whether or not to join the aggregation. So here I've just set out some common questions that we get around these aggregations. So the first one is that you may have ESA and ski licenses, for example, with different enrolment dates. So can you add them all to the same aggregation? And in most instances, it's a yes, but please contact us to talk about this because it may depend how far apart the enrolment dates are, perhaps whether they're already under separate ESA agreements with Microsoft. So we just need to check what your current situation is, but in most instances, yes. We often get another question about can you add different types of licenses to the aggregation? So that's a yes as well. Common licenses are ESA and ski, which I've mentioned previously, but customers can also add MPSA, NCE licenses, which may have previously been known as CSP licenses, or Select Plus licenses, or OVSES for education licenses. So yes, again, golden rule, contact us, send your requirements in so we can talk to you about what you have on your estate. The common double check question that we get is, are you committed to entering a contract with a winning supplier? And no, you're not. But the aggregation process will allow you to go through the tender process and to talk to the winning bidder following competition. So you can talk to them about optimization ideas on your estate before you go through to contract. So you will have plenty of opportunity to decide whether it is the right shape for you following tender. And then I've added the last common question that we see here about not knowing the final numbers of your licenses yet for the enrolment and whether you can still go forward. So yes is the answer, because as mentioned, you're not committed to the products or the quantities that we publish on your behalf. You will get an opportunity to update those, but equally pre-tender we will work with you to help finalise your license quantities if you have any questions around that. So if in doubt, we always say use your most recent true up information that you have, because you then will have an opportunity to talk to the winning bidder post tender to make sure that you have the correct number of licenses for your estate. So that's it for this presentation, and thank you very much for listening. Please do get in touch if you have any questions either about your Microsoft estate, so we can help answer some questions for you, whether you need to check whether aggregation is the right route for you because there are other routes to take if you would prefer to go to tender yourselves, and we can recommend those routes for you, or whether you have any questions about the aggregation process and want to talk through what it means to you. Just get in touch with us and we would love to talk to you and help you through your considerations. Thank you.